Intel just reported one of its worst quarters ever. As we can see, the stock price is down over 10% as I am recording this episode. But today I don't really want to talk too much about your favorite semiconductor company, Intel. I want to take a closer look at some of my favorite semiconductors, NVIDIA and AMD, and what this Intel earnings means to both these companies. I do want to say there's definitely some bullish stuff here for AMD. Unfortunately, there's also some bearish stuff for both AMD and NVIDIA. So let's get started with today's episode.
I do want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and make sure to check out fool.com/Jose to get the top 10 stocks to buy right now.
All right, so like I mentioned, Intel's down 10% right now, sitting at $35.57. You know, to its surprise, it still hasn't hit 52-week low, which is something I wonder if we are bottoming out to some extent, even with those earnings. So I just want to show a quick overview of the earnings and the two markets that I believe AMD and NVIDIA investors should take a closer look at. So first, if we take a closer look at the company's client computing group, this is the kind of consumer market, more or less, is down 25% year over year. And unfortunately, look at that operating margins, down a huge amount for this company. So this is actually the bad news that I have for AMD and NVIDIA. And let's break it down a little bit further. So one of the reasons they have this decline in revenue for the consumer market is pretty much a PC demand softening and kind of seeing OEM inventory reductions. And if you have been watching this episode, you know earlier this month we kind of mentioned how the PC shipment has dropped over double digits compared to the same time last year for the second quarter of 2022. So this should be by no surprise, and you should be like, Jose, you are so awesome for getting this information to us earlier. So I do believe this is where the bad news comes for AMD and NVIDIA. First, at AMD, if we take a closer look at their most recent earnings, we can see that from their computer group segment, they have about $2.8 billion, a little bit less than half of total revenue. And here's the consumer market. So I do believe this market here will take an impact in the upcoming quarter. I do want to say I don't believe their hurt will be as bad as Intel. We saw Intel, their revenue was down 25% year over year. For AMD, I believe that would be either in the single digits or in the low teens, if anything. And the reason I mentioned that is because of the overall market share in CPUs at the moment. We can see the largest market share in quarter one of 2022 was Intel with 64% of the total market. AMD only has about 35 to 36% of the total market. So usually when the overall market takes a huge hit, the leader is the one that takes a bigger front of that hit. So for that reason, I do believe AMD's consumer revenue segment might still take a hit. I don't believe it will be as bad as that 25%. So I could be either bullish or bearish depending on how you see it. Some people might wonder if there might even actually show some growth. If they do, that would be super bullish. But because of the overall PC shipment decreasing, I believe the chances of that happening is very low. And if you are enjoying the information I'm providing, make sure to hit the thumbs up, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and let me know in the comments below, how bad do you think AMD's and NVIDIA's earnings will be this upcoming quarter? Or will they not be bad at all? I do believe because this consumer market is seeing a nice decrease, NVIDIA is also going to take a huge hit in the consumer revenue market, and I'm going to show why. We can see right now in NVIDIA's most recent earnings, their revenue for the consumer market is pretty much here, the gaming. That was $3.6 billion out of the $8.3 billion they reported that quarter. So it definitely is a big portion. Unfortunately, I do think NVIDIA is going to take a bigger hit in this market, solely because it is the leader. We can see this is the amount of PC discrete graphics cards shipments shared worldwide for the first quarter of 2022. And we can see the leader here in kind of shipment of discrete cards is NVIDIA with 78%. AMD with 17%. Again, this is going to be very similar to the CPU market, where I believe the leader is going to be the one that takes a bigger hit in the consumer market, like we saw. Now, do I think it would be a 25% revenue drop in this gaming segment? And to be honest, I'm not sure. I do believe that it's a possibility, especially because of other tailwinds affecting the graphics card market, like the overall crypto market at the moment. So it's definitely possible. But at the end of the day, there is some bullish news for both AMD and NVIDIA that I want to share right now. So next, the bullish news for AMD and NVIDIA, and this is the data center market. Even though Intel doesn't show that there's a bullish reason to be in the data center market, if you take a closer look at their earnings call and their prepared marks, I do believe there's some kind of hidden gems in there. So we can see in the data center market, Intel actually lost 16% of revenue. This is insane. And if you are a semiconductor investor, you might kind of be worried that, hey, Jose, I thought the data center market was strong. Why is this company seeing a huge decline? If we kind of take a closer look at the prepared marks for Intel, they mentioned that this segment was below expectation and was down 16% year over year on the following. First, they mentioned OEM inventory reductions. But the other two reasons I want to say are the real reasons. First, they say mix related average sale price have declined and competitive pressure. I do want to say they go hand in hand. I want to say their average sale prices have declined because of the competitive pressure. And I do believe the competitive pressure is the real reason why the revenue is down a nice amount. And who is the competitive pressure for Intel right now? AMD. If we take a closer look at this information from Mercury Research, they kind of show us the market share of AMD of Q1 of 2022. If we take a look at their server CPU, which is pretty much data centers, it was only 11.6% on Q1 of 2022. So we can see this is a small segment of the total market share. So here, where I believe that yes, Intel's seeing huge pressure in the data center where we're going to see revenue down, I do believe AMD is going to show the opposite and is going to show huge strength in this market. Unfortunately for Intel, one thing they also had to do is they had to kind of delay their upcoming server CPU a bit, which I do believe is going to give AMD great time to kind of produce and deliver a strong Genoa. So I do believe this upcoming generation is going to be another great generation for AMD. And I do believe this kind of still shows that there is still demand in the data center market, especially if AMD ends up providing great results. I think for Nvidia, since it really in theory has no true competitive it doesn't have too much competitive pressure at the moment in the kind of GPU market for data centers, I do believe it's going to be a great quarter for the data centers for Nvidia. So those are the bullish news and bearish news I have for the company. Like I said, let me know in the comments below. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.